Good morning.
Good morning.
I am talking to Patti Reebok, who has been a friend and colleague of mine for over 10 years. And we began our relationship here at Reebok when I asked to speak to her boss, Bill Holmes, who is the executive senior vice president of human resources, which I believe is which takes in all of Adidas and Reebok as well.
Mm-hmm.
How many employees would you say we're talking about here?
For the North American market, about 12,000.
12,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
So Patty's job is huge just on that end. But in the 10 years I've known her, she has really evolved into creating some wonderful opportunities, predominantly for her passion for leadership. So in the course that I am teaching right now, I am asking Patti if she would share some of her wonderful secrets and how she evolved as a leader with Reebok.
My secrets to success.
Absolutely.
Right. So, yes. So I began my career at Reebok 15 years ago as the executive assistant to the senior vice president of human resources. And, for personal reasons that fit my life really well, I could work the hours that I needed to work. And then as we were acquired by the Adidas Group in 2006 and things began to change, I saw opportunities to make my role better for me personally, but also professionally, and also support my boss in a different way. So we created my role to be a split one, to being not only his executive assistant running the office, managing him and his schedule and his travel and the budgets and everything that you can imagine that goes into managing an office, to also managing projects, because there's certainly a lot to do as far as projects when you're dealing with culture and strategy.
Talk a little bit about culture and strategy.
Mm-hmm. Very, very important things, and that's where our biggest focus is, especially Bill being the Senior Vice President of Human Resources. It really does all come down to strategy and culture. So we have in HR North America a people plan. It's a 3-year plan at the current time, and we have 3 focus areas that we work on for our strategy. And they are innovation, feedback, and leadership. So there was a lot of opportunity for me to get involved in one or all of those areas, and I chose innovation. So the other thing that we focus on besides the strategy and implementing it and embedding it somehow in the culture, you say, well, how are we going to do this? So that's when it comes down to culture and changing the culture and how do you lead change. So I chose to work in innovation.
But isn't innovation a part of leadership? A really important part of it?
It is. It's all about it, and it really should be at the forefront of what everybody does. And what we were dealing with here in the Adidas Group specifically was that the culture was one of hierarchy, control, and obedience. And so people weren't thinking. People weren't able to have a voice and be creative enough. And we're supposed to be a creative company. Reebok makes sneakers. It's a fitness company.
Hierarchy,
we make
control, and obedience.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's what we were.
It's like a military type of.
Yeah.
So that changed.
Yeah. So Reebok was, I think, a real entrepreneurial type company prior to being acquired, and all of a sudden we started to see the culture really change to one of that hierarchy, control, and obedience, and it wasn't good. So Mark King came on board as our new North America president. He was with TaylorMade for 30 years. You may know the name. And so he joined us on the Adidas side, the Adidas North America side of the business, and he quickly learned that we were not a creative company, particularly on the Adidas side. Reebok had just gone through years of change from going from a sport company, having the NFL account and the hockey leagues, to one of fitness. So we had already gone through our 5-year strategy on being a fitness brand. So we have partnerships with CrossFit and Spartan Race, Les Mills. So we're really into the fitness space. But Adidas brand, on the other hand, is a sporting company Obviously soccer is their biggest sport
Right.
that they focus on.
European culture.
Again, the European influence. But in the United States, it wasn't resonating with the consumer. So
Okay.
Mark King quickly realized that and said, we've got to do something.
Okay.
So he introduced us to a gentleman by the name of Gary Hamill.
Okay.
And Gary Hamill is a master in the innovation world. He's a professor, so you may, if you Google him, you guys can figure
I have
that
come
out.
across the
Yeah,
name, absolutely.
I'm sure. So he has a small company called M-Lab, or Management Lab. We call it fondly M-Lab. And we partnered with them and figured out a way to start to change the culture here from one of where leaders tell the employees what to do and the employees do it.
Aren't they more managers than leaders?
Managers, yeah.
So would you say this is 21st century thinking about leadership? We go from so leading has, so you have a different paradigm on innovation.
Yes.
Okay.
So we wanted to flip that. We wanted to go from leaders telling and employees doing to employees having a voice, one that's creative and a platform to be able to share it,
Right.
and leaders actually creating the environment to allow it.
Okay. So innovation, meaning, okay, we're not waiting for the next, if you will, order to be told. We're thinking on our feet.
Yeah.
Because our culture has changed.
The culture.
We're not going to get our head bit off if we don't necessarily agree with our boss.
And that was a huge fear factor for our employees. When we first started to do this, it was the beginning of 2015. And we actually had Gary Hamill come out to Portland and speak to all of the employees in Portland. And, tell them about innovation and why we should innovate and how to innovate. And so Bill and myself, our role was really to help Mark lead that change.
Okay. So would this be a change for Bill as well?
Yes. Yeah, and he's in the space that he wants to be in, which is really about managing leaders and helping them to not only embrace leading change, but again to create that environment to allow employees to be innovative, to be creative, to have a voice and a say in what goes on in the company.
Now, you just can't start doing this with 12,000 employees, so to speak. It has to start somewhere. Did it start right here at corporate?
It actually started with what we call the Innovation Academy.
Okay.
So we worked with Gary Hamill and his team of two. And we
Team of two.
Yeah, McKaylee and Polly. And we created the Innovation Academy, and it's actually an online course that we opened up to our employees.
Wow.
And Gary, if you Google Gary and you learn anything about him, he's again just a master in the space of innovation. And so we were able to get him to create content for us, for our employees to go through a program to actually learn how to be business innovators and think differently, think innovatively, think creatively, but also
As if it were their company. I'm sorry. As if it were their company.
Yeah, they should have a say.
I'm sorry, I didn't cut down. But you said, and also, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So not only teaching the employees and upskilling their creative capital, but also again really changing the culture on how we do things. So it was twofold.
It's scary.
Yeah, it was very scary. Employees were hesitant at first because we offered them a platform. Go onto the site. Take the course. It was 8 modules, spent about 2 or 3 hours a week. If you finished modules 1 through 7, we graduated you. You got a certificate from Gary Hamill and Mark King saying, congratulations, you are a graduate of the M-Lab Innovation Academy. But what started to happen was that employees learned something. They learned how to be innovative. They learned how to take an idea that they may have had about whether it's a product or a process or something that we're doing here and turn it into a business plan.
Their own business
plan.
Their
own business plan. And then offer it to the company. So we ended up having 968 people graduate.
Wow.
We've never seen anything like it. So we invited about 3,000 people. We figured we would pilot it. We invited about 3,000 people in North America. So we're talking 9 locations: Montreal, Canada, Canton, Portland, Spartanburg, Philadelphia, New York, Cedar Rapids, Mattapoisett. We have all these locations in the U.S. And we, sent out the email. We had a really intense communication plan. Every Wednesday we opened up a module.
Wow.
Every Friday we sent out blogs. So we got a really good participation rate. 2,000 people signed up and actually logged in and did something.
We started with 900 plus. Now we have 2,000, right?
We started with 3,000 invited. 2,000 actually participated.
Right, but before that...
968 graduated.
I'm sorry. Okay, now I get it.
So,
wow.
big numbers.
Still,
and only
third.
like myself running, the internal piece of it, and then Pauline, McKaylee, and Gary, of course, is sort of the MC of everything. But
how does that idea? Where does that idea come from? Yeah, where does that idea come from, Patti? I mean, like, how do you think of these things?
Well, when we first wrote the North American People Plan in November of 14 to say, okay, in North America, HR is going to focus on leading change through innovation, leadership, feedback, and then leadership, those 3 focus areas.
Right.
And we're all sitting in the room going, how are we going to do this? You need tools. Sometimes you have to go external.
You need support.
You need support.
So we need resources.
So that's, really, we just got lucky. Mark King happened to come into his role in the middle of the year in 14, and so we were just getting to know him. He introduced us to Gary Hamill because Mark, like I said, quickly learned that we weren't an innovative culture. We weren't creative. We were actually holding ourselves back. There are so many barriers in management in this company that are actually working against us.
How do you get somebody like Gary to come on board and to make changes?
That was, Mark and Gary met about 6 years ago at a speaking engagement. So Mark had Gary do some work with him at TaylorMade, again, trying to change the culture to one that they called a culture of care. Because it really is about your people. It's about genuine care. I
like that, a culture of care.
Culture of care.
So we have a situation where we're not taking care of you because we have to. We are supporting you because if you benefit from the support, so does the organization.
Absolutely.
So
it all starts with your people.
Dual feed company. So how does that all pan out to the Reebok strategic plan, the long-term plan, with this new innovation?
Well, innovation has certainly made a change. Our people feel like they have more of a voice now,
right,
and that they can actually approach a manager or someone in a lead position and actually offer their opinions, their suggestions, their comments, and not have any sort of let down from it, not be heard, or any sort of fear of being rejected.
Yeah, so I guess rejection is the biggest fear. Yeah. I mean, it's just part of the human element. Everyone is afraid of rejection.
To be curious and to be, and especially with the generations that are in the workforce now, the younger generations,
millennials?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're very curious, and they want feedback, and they want to be able to offer their opinions, and they want to be able to offer their ideas. So we've started to make that change in our organization where they can do that.
So typically...
And everyone can do that, not just the millennials.
Right.
Myself included.
Well, you're bringing up a really interesting point, too, and that is we have several generations under this roof from different places. How do we get them to all work together under this innovation umbrella?
Yeah. Well, under the innovation focus area, everyone's equal. The platform that we created and the content that we created, it's a holacracy. There's no titles. Everyone's the same. Everyone's equal. So somebody in Spartanburg could be talking to someone in Portland, and they could be having a discussion in the site about an idea and talking, and there's no I'm a senior person, you're working in a warehouse type of mentality. Everybody's equal.
I know it's kind of interesting to bring that up because one of the things that I hear so often, and it just makes me cringe, it's like, well, I have 7 people working under me. It's like, What does that mean, working under you?
It's not a very nice thing to say.
But you know something, but here again, they don't mean it facetiously or maliciously. It's part of the culture, if you will.
Yep.
So the idea is, if Bill, your boss, had an idea, you had an idea, and someone that was working in a design had a better idea, it was like, hey, you know something? You got a better idea. Is that what we're talking about here, in a sense?
I think so. Everything's open to consideration, in the Innovation Academy. And what we did, like I said, we had 968 people graduate. Therefore, we had 968 ideas, 968 business plans.
Wow.
So what we're doing now is we're in phase 2, where we've taken 100 people out of the 968 graduates. We took our top 100 people. We had certain criteria where we found them. And we've got them on...
talent criteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And their ideas were also very feasible ideas. So we had some strong criteria. So
sure.
We pulled the top 100 people. And we also found 12 themes that emerged from all of these ideas.
Oh, wow.
So we placed the top 100 people on a theme team, we're calling it.
Oh, wow. Theme team.
Theme team.
Yeah.
Dream team, theme team. So what we're doing is we're having a Shark Tank event in February. And
who are the judges?
They're external.
Oh, wow.
Because again, Mark King feels that our own management, our own leadership is our barrier. So we're not having them be the panel of judges to listen to these ideas.
Okay, separating the forest from the trees.
Absolutely.
So we want definitely...
Why reward our leaders who have, basically not made our company successful to such an important event where we've taken the time to educate our employees on how to be innovative and create and think differently, and ask them to come and put so much work into pitching an idea or two to an external panel of judges. That's what we're going to do.
So we're planning for
We're not going to
successorship.
ask the internal leaders to judge.
You're planning for successorship.
Totally.
Okay, just about at the end of the interview. I
would
just
add that the other...
No. I was just going to say, are there any other things that you are... Yeah.
I would just add that the other thing about changing the culture and getting people to be better leaders is feedback. So we've gone through and done 360 feedback for all of our top leaders in the company that report to Mark King, and now we're taking that down to their direct reports. And I don't know if you've ever heard of 360 feedback, but it's a tool where you're asked for a list of names of people that you'd like to offer feedback on you. And then as an HR professional, we also add in a couple or two, 3. But we used, for the leadership team, we used an external consultant who interviewed, say 10 people for each person. And so we collected all of this data on each of our leaders that report to Mark King. And then we also did DISC on everyone. I don't know if you've heard of the tool DISC, but it tells you what type of personality you are. So we had... Is it
similar to like a Myers-Briggs?
Like a PI, Predictive Index.
The PI,
exactly,
okay.
Something like that. So we had both of these, great pieces of data on each of our leaders, and the executive coach had conversations with them, told them all of the feedback, and then they created a development plan for each one. So then we did a series of what we call new leader assimilations. So anytime we have new leaders come in, or if you get moved into a different role, we do what's called a new leader assimilation, so that you can actually work with your team of direct reports, and they learn about you, you learn about them, and you figure out a way to work together. Or at least you know about each other. How do you work? How do you like things as a leader? What are your hot buttons? Things like that.
So people know how you are. It's dynamic.
It helps.
It's interactive.
Yeah.
And
it also helps you know the person a little bit better from the inside.
I think people should be predictable to a point. Mm-hmm. In other words, like some people, I'm sure, in the past, we've all worked for employers that ran hot and cold. When you came into work, we never knew what they were.
What's going on?
Yeah, that type of thing. Okay, this is great. Do you have any closing thoughts or recommendations for my students here?
About leadership specifically?
About the way you see leadership.
Well, I do see the leaders being very different from managers.
Okay.
Managers, there's a difference between managers and leaders. Okay, managers manage either a function or a project, like myself. They do it well. Leaders actually lead through people. So it's very important that the leader, definitely has a supporting team around them, but they're all about leading through people. It's not about themselves, and it's not about hierarchy, control, and obedience. It's about letting your people be the best that they can be. And if you work for a really good leader, you know it. You just know it, and you can just see the difference between the two. A manager is just very functional, and they're all about getting things done, and they actually may do some of the work or all of the work themselves, and be sort of that controlling type person. And then
It's the difference
a
between doing
leader,
things
it's just
right.
the difference. It's night and day. A leader is just somebody who allows their team to get involved, allows their team to expand their role, spread their wings. It's just a very, very big difference between the two.
Wow, this has been truly inspirational and a pleasure to allow me to interview you on it. Patti is a really, really innovative individual, and who knows, maybe someday we'll be saying CEO. But anyway.
I call myself HPA.
What's that?
High-powered assistant.
Well, maybe not as much an assistant as you think. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you,
have
John.
a wonderful holiday.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.